The first thing I saw when I drove back into my hometown was my own handwriting, framed behind glass, nailed to the wall of the old tackle shop. Not a billboard, not a welcome sign. A yellowed piece of notebook paper with two crooked stick figures at the bottom and the words, "I, Nathan Reed, promise to marry Ivy Callahan someday, even if she gets bossy." Especially if she gets bossy, I nearly drove my truck into a mailbox. I was 32, coming home with two suitcases, a dead phone, and a life everyone called successful right before it quietly fell apart. My name's Nathan, I'm from a small town called Maple Hollow, and this is the story of how one framed piece of paper changed everything. I'd spent 8 years in the city selling commercial insurance to men who owned watches worth more than my first car. Nice apartment, expensive suits, a closet full of shirts I hated, and not one person who noticed when I stopped laughing, so I quit. No speech, no dramatic exit. I just woke up one Tuesday, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize the man staring back. By Friday, I was driving home. By noon, I was parked outside Callahan's Hearth Bakery, staring at a childhood promise I'd apparently signed in purple crayon. The bell above the door jingled when I walked in. Warm sugar, coffee, cinnamon, and then a laugh from the kitchen. Not polite, real, the kind that leaned back and took up space. I knew that laugh before I saw her. Ivy Callahan stepped out carrying a tray of blueberry scones, flour on her cheek, dark hair tied back with a red bandana, and eyes that looked like they were saving every dumb thing I'd ever done for later. She saw me, the tray lowered an inch. "Well," she said, "if it isn't my fiancé." Every head in the bakery turned. I froze beside the lemon bars. "That document is not legally binding," I managed. "Interesting opening statement," she said, "from a man who wrote especially if she gets bossy." "I was 8. You were specific," someone snorted in the corner. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I laughed without checking who was watching. Growing up, Ivy and I had been inseparable, two halves of one bad idea, my mother used to say. Then my father died when I was 17, and grief turned me into someone obsessed with leaving. College, internships, bigger jobs. First I called, then I texted. Then I became one of those people who said we should catch up soon, like soon was a place you could visit. Ivy stayed. She took over her grandmother's bakery, nursed her mother through cancer treatment, and became the kind of woman this whole town leaned on, the kind I used to lean on. Before I mistook leaving for becoming someone. She set a paper cup in front of me. "Black, 2 sugars. You still remember my order," I said. "I remember lots of useless things. Like our engagement. Why is that thing hanging in the tackle shop window? Pete found it in an old box after his dad passed. And this town has no respect for privacy." She leaned on the counter, close enough that I caught vanilla and sugar on her skin. "Your promise has been bringing tourists into my bakery for 5 years. I should be paying you royalties. You abandoned your stake," she said. The word abandon changed the air between us. I wanted to say something plain, something that could undo 15 years of missed birthdays. Instead, I just said I was wrong to disappear. Her fingers stilled on the counter. The whole bakery went quiet in that small-town way where everyone pretends not to listen and fails completely. "You didn't disappear," she said. "You sent Christmas cards with printed signatures. That's worse. It was impressive, actually. Nothing says deep personal connection like an embossed snowflake. I deserve that. You deserve more, but I'm working." A line formed behind me and we both took the excuse. I watched her move through the shop. She knew everyone's name, their orders, their troubles. And something old woke up in me watching her, not nostalgia. The pull I used to feel when she'd grab my wrist and say, "Come on, Nathan," like the world was waiting and I was taking too long. When the rush eased, I was still standing there. "Big spender," she said, buying a scone. "Actually, I was going to ask you to dinner." The room noticed. A fork stopped halfway to someone's mouth. Ivy's expression sharpened instead of softened. "After 15 years of paper cup friendship, I'm trying to upgrade to ceramic," I said. That almost got her. She untied her apron, walked around the counter, and stood close enough that the whole town seemed to inhale at once. "You remember what you promised me at 8? To marry you. Even if you got bossy, especially, then prove you meant it." She took my coffee, poured it into a real mug, and pointed to the empty chair. "Sit, not forever, not yet. Just through one cup, no phone, no pretending you came back by accident. And if you tell me the truth about why you're really home, maybe I'll let you ask me to dinner again." I sat. I told her everything, the apartment, the suits, the nights I answered emails at midnight and called it dependable. How I'd stopped noticing that I wasn't missing anyone, and told myself that meant I was free. How one night I opened my contacts to call someone, anyone, and stopped on her name and didn't call. because I knew her voice would end the lie I was telling myself. You should have called, she said quietly. When your dad died, when college got hard, when your mom sold the house, when you started becoming someone you didn't like. Each sentence landed. Not cruel, accurate. I know, I said, because it was the only thing true enough to say twice. You don't get to come back and make me your moral compass, she said. I'm not asking that. I'm asking for a chance to know you now. That was the real thing, the part that scared me more than failure ever had. Then out of nowhere, a man in the corner, Pete, the town's unofficial gossip column, whispered loudly, "Lord, that was decent." Ivy turned, glared at him. Then stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "Come on," she said, "did I fail? You passed round one." She grabbed 2 wrapped sandwiches, tossed one at me, and called back to the girl in the kitchen. "Nora, you're in charge. Don't let Pete start rumors." "Too late," Nora called back. We walked to Willow Creek, where the bank curved behind the library and the whole town seemed to fall quiet. Ivy sat on the stone wall and patted the spot beside her, not across from her. Beside, we ate without talking for a while, then she nudged my knee. "You're staring at the creek. I'm appreciating the whole view. Careful, Reed. Flattery from a man in expensive shoes can't be trusted. I quit the job." "The shoes are unemployed too." She studied me, teasing, fading into something else. "You mean that?" I looked at her hands, capable, flower under one nail, a small burn near her wrist. Hands that had built a real life while mine had signed contracts. "I mean, I don't want to run this time." The breeze lifted a strand of hair across her cheek. I reached out and brushed it back. She caught her breath. "Nathan," she whispered, "yeah, if you hurt me again, I'll make it educational." I laughed, low and helpless. "Most romantic threat I've ever gotten. I'm serious. I'm not asking you to trust me today," I said. "Just don't decide I'm already gone." She leaned in and pressed her forehead to my shoulder. It wasn't a kiss, but it felt like more than one. I wrapped an arm around her back and she fit there, not like memory, like home. After 20 quiet seconds, she pulled back and pointed at me. "This doesn't mean you get dinner automatically. Round 2 starts tonight." "What's round 2? You're helping me bake for the Founders Day rush. 4 a.m. Be late and the engagement's off." But what happened over the next 12 hours would change everything I thought I understood about second chances. At 3:47 the next morning, I stood outside the bakery with wet hair, 2 coffees, and the nervous energy of a man arriving for a first date disguised as manual labor. Ivy opened the door before I could knock, wearing an oversized sweatshirt and a scowl that did nothing to make her less beautiful. "You're early," she said. Afraid of losing my provisional status. She took the lavender latte I held out. "You remembered. I asked Nora yesterday." That answer got me inside. Before dawn, the bakery was a different world, steel counters, sacks of flour, Ivy moving through it like she belonged to every inch. She handed me a pink apron that said "Whisk Taker." "This feels targeted." Only one was left. There were 6 black ones on the hook. She was lying and we both knew it. She taught me to measure flour properly, not scoop like you're digging a grave, and corrected my grip on the rolling pin by standing behind me. Her hands over mine. "Looser," she murmured near my shoulder. "Ivy, you can't stand that close and say looser before sunrise and expect me to function." Her laugh broke against my back. "You were never normal. I used to at least pretend." A timer shrieked and we jumped apart like teenagers caught somewhere we shouldn't be. "Saved by the croissants," she said. By sunrise, we sat on overturned flour buckets, splitting a cinnamon roll too ugly for the display case. She tore off a piece and held it to my mouth. When I leaned in to take it, her thumb brushed my lower lip, and suddenly the whole kitchen felt charged with something bigger than pastry. "You have icing," she said softly. Where her thumb touched the corner of my mouth, I caught her wrist, not to stop her, just to keep her there. "Ivy," I said, "I want to kiss you, not because of the promise. Because of who you are right now." Her breath trembled. "Prove it." So I did, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. She kissed me back like she was angry at how much she'd missed me and relieved all at once. When we broke apart, my phone buzzed on the counter. A name lit the screen, my old boss, Derek Voss. I turned it off without answering. "What if it's important?" Ivy asked, too lightly. "Not more important than this." I took her hand instead. She squeezed it once. "Good answer," she said. By 7, the morning rush swallowed us whole, but every time she passed behind me, her hand skimmed my back. Around 9, she handed me a box of pastries. "Delivery, town hall, don't drop them." "And Nathan, if you come back after, instead of disappearing, I'll consider dinner." "I'm coming back," I said. "This time I mean it before you ask me to prove it." Town hall was 6 blocks away. It took me 40 minutes. Because apparently the entire town had formed a committee dedicated to stopping me every 12 feet to ask if Ivy had accepted my proposal yet. By the time I escaped the mayor's attempt to recruit me for the dunk tank, my phone had come back to life. 12 missed calls, all from Derek. I called back on the town hall steps. Brooks, I mean Reed, finally, he said. Where the hell are you? Maple Hollow. That's not funny. You walked out during renewal season. I looked across the square, Founders Day banners, a kid chasing bubbles, and through the bakery window, Ivy laughing at something Nora said. My chest eased. I'm not coming back Monday, I said. Don't be stupid. This hometown thing won't last. I watched Ivy through the glass, flower in her hair, sunlight on her face. It isn't a phase, I said quietly. It's my life, it never was back there. And I hung up before he could answer. When I got back, the morning rush had turned to controlled chaos. Ivy spotted me and her face changed, just enough relief to hit harder than any kiss had. At noon, she pulled me into the back kitchen. Did you answer him? I saw the calls. I saw your face when you came back, she said, no accusation in her voice, which somehow made it worse. He offered me more money to return, I admitted. I told him no, because of me first, and because when I imagined leaving again, the worst part wasn't the drive. It was picturing you behind that counter, pretending you didn't care. I'm very good at pretending. I know I hate it. I stepped closer. I don't have a 5-year plan. I have 2 suitcases and 1 pair of very judged shoes. But I want to stay long enough to become someone you don't have to brace yourself against. You keep saying things like that. I keep meaning them. That's inconvenient, she whispered. For your probation system, for my heart, idiot, I reached for her slowly. She didn't stop me. You still have to ask me to dinner properly, she said. Ivy Callahan. Will you have dinner with me tonight, not as a test, not as a childhood joke? Because I am wildly, embarrassingly interested in the woman who threatens me with baked goods and emotional accountability. That was nearly proper, she laughed. You said wildly. I can downgrade to moderately. Don't you dare. I kissed her, and for a few seconds the bakery could have burned down around us and I'd have asked the flames to wait. That night I picked her up from her grandmother's old house, the blue one on Alder Street which she'd bought herself. We walked to the Founders Day fair instead of driving. Kettle corn, a ring toss argument, a slow dance near the gazebo to a local band murdering old love songs with real enthusiasm. She fit against me like she had at the creek, except this time she didn't pretend it was accidental. I missed you, she said quietly, her cheek against my collarbone. I missed you too. I just didn't let myself know it. That sounds exactly like something a man says after wasting 15 years. I'm trying to become less stupid. You have a long road. Will you walk some of it with me? Some is my favorite distance, I said. She kissed me in the middle of Main Street in front of half the town, and I kissed her back like public embarrassment was a small price for being chosen by Ivy Callahan. If I had known what was coming next, I might have asked her to marry me right there, but I didn't, not yet. The next morning she found me standing outside the tackle shop, staring at our framed promise. She brought 2 coffees. I can't believe Pete put this up, I said. I can't believe you spelled especially right at 8. I was serious about my vows. Were you? The question reached deeper than she probably meant it to. I looked at the paper, then at her. I'm not ready to ask you to marry me, I said. Her face went carefully blank. Not because I don't want to, because you deserve better than a man using a childhood promise as a shortcut. I want to date you properly, badly, with embarrassing effort. I want to earn Sunday mornings and grocery lists and the right to know when you're tired before you say it. Her mouth trembled before the smile broke through. That was almost a proposal against proposing. I'm complicated. You're wordy. You like it. I tolerate it when paired with emotional growth. She lifted her coffee. There will be probation. Seasonal reviews. And if you ever send me a Christmas card with a printed signature again, I will feed it to you. Accepted. Then yes. I kissed her in front of the tackle shop, in front of the framed promise. In front of the morning delivery truck, and Pete, who opened the door at exactly the wrong moment and yelled, I knew it. That afternoon, I rented the apartment over the hardware store, with a view of the bakery's back door. Ivy called it strategically clingy. I called it convenient. I started working with a local contractor restoring old houses, work that felt more honest than any spreadsheet ever had. We didn't become perfect overnight. When Derek called again with a bigger offer, I panicked, and Ivy found me sitting on the bakery steps with old fear in my throat. She didn't beg me to stay. She just sat beside me and said, choose your life, Nathan, don't make me choose it for you. So I did. I deleted the voicemail, then asked her to help me pick paint colors for the apartment because apparently I now had opinions about walls. She cried a little. Then she called my favorite shade corporate oatmeal, and we laughed until neither of us could remember why we'd been sad. By spring, the whole town had stopped asking if we were engaged and started asking when we'd finally do something about that paper. On the anniversary of the day I came home, I closed the bakery early and led Ivy down to Willow Creek. A blanket, 2 sandwiches, and the original purple crayon promise newly framed waiting on the grass. Nathan, she said, tears already rising, I know no shortcut. This isn't me asking because of what an 8-year-old promised. This is me asking because for the last year I've woken up every day and chosen to stay. Chosen you. I love you, Ivy Callahan. I loved you badly as a kid, missed you stupidly as a man, and I want to love you properly for the rest of my life. Will you marry me? She wiped her cheek. Does the new contract still include especially if she gets bossy, my favorite clause? Then yes. I barely got the ring out before she kissed me. A year later, Ivy walked down the aisle in the garden behind the bakery, under strings of white lights and pear blossoms. Pete cried louder than my own mother. Nora officiated, having gotten ordained online and insisting she was emotionally qualified. At the reception, Ivy set the framed childhood promise beside the wedding cake. Underneath it, in her own handwriting, she'd added one line, proven. Now most mornings I wake before dawn to the smell of bread and coffee. Ivy steals the blankets. I still own one pair of expensive shoes, though they live in the back of a closet like a warning. Our daughter, Poppy, is 3 now, bossy in a way that makes Ivy unbearably proud. She likes to point at the framed promise hanging in our kitchen and ask, Daddy, did you really promise Mommy forever? And every time I pull Ivy close, kiss the top of her flour-dusted head. And say, yes, sweetheart, but the best part is I got to prove it. So tell me, what would you have done if you came home and found a childhood promise framed for the whole town to see? Have you ever had an old love or an old promise come back and change everything? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And tell me where you're watching from. I'm always curious how far these stories travel. If you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.